The software we're looking at today is called Commander, and MIC Systems is actually the company that developed the Commander software. Our offices are right here in Orange County in Costa Mesa, right next to the John Wayne Airport. So we're right between Los Angeles and San Diego. This is our building here on the right. We were established in 1979, and we've got about 42 years in business now. I think we're in about 13 different countries, and we have several thousand dealers that are using our dealer management software. So we're not a small company by any means, but we are still family owned. And so that way we do control our own destiny. So a couple of questions for you guys. I mean, what are you using for software now? What do you guys currently have?
Star.
If I remember correctly, you guys were a dealer for one of the engine lines. Was it Mercury or Yamaha? Who were we a dealer for?
Mercury.
Merc dealers. Okay. We'll focus our demo today just on some of the integrations that we have with Mercury. Commander is basically a Windows-based program, so we're running on a Windows platform. It's server-based, so that means you locally host it. We can do a cloud server for you. At this stage, we're on Windows 10, soon to move to Windows 11, of course, and that can be on any desktop PC, Surface Pro tablet. As long as it's a Windows device, you can run Commander. How many total workstations are you guys looking at running, Aaron? What's the user count? 4 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a server currently, or is it just desktops that are connected there?
Oh, we already have a Windows 2019 server ready to go.
Okay, so that's perfect. That's going to work great for Commander, and we're going to be able to load on that. We're running a SQL database, which is basically Microsoft's or state-of-the-art database that they have. Most of what we do is mainstream as far as Windows go. We can run on a Mac if you want to, if you have any Macs there, but you have to put Parallels on a Mac, and then you can load the Commander client on that. We've got a solution for your parts department, point of sale, service department, writing service estimates, repairing boats, purchase orders, buying product, boat motor trailer sales, and there's an accounting integration piece through General Ledger inside of Commander, and of course an integration piece also with Quickbooks. Price files are basically one of the first things I like to talk about during those demos because a lot of the other generic software does not come with parts price files. And so we include parts price files with Commander. And as a marine dealer, you can get your first 10 files included with the software at no additional cost. So when we're moving into the marine space, because we do have outdoor power equipment, we have power sports files like this, and then we have the marine files. Obviously, we expect that you guys are going to want a Mercury Cruiser dealer file. We would expect that you would probably want a land and sea file, maybe a Lewis file, maybe Donovan, maybe your service department works on Volvos, or maybe you work on, Yamaha, or whatever the case might be. So we have the ability to load these different price files into the software for you. And the way that works, and I'm going to show you very, very quickly, is how we do this. There's a desktop app that we call a price file loader. And this just goes onto the server. So when you want to get the latest Mercury file, essentially you're going to go into this app. You'll type in MER for Mercury like this, and this is actually going to ping our server. So your server is basically through this app going to connect to our server and go and look and see if there's an updated Mercury file. So in real time, just like this, we're going ahead here, we're pinging the server. And this is going to give you the ability to update all of your Mercury parts and prices very easily. So as you can see here, the last Mercury file that this dealer loaded, well, in this data set was back in May 28th, 2020. This is an older data set. It took just over 3 minutes to load it. And these little red boxes on the right-hand side here are showing us that there's a newer file available. And the latest file that's available as of the date of this demo is October 6th. And of course, today is October 13th. So it's about a week old. You would want to update your prices. Of course, you accept the file, and that downloads the couple 100,000 Mercury part numbers that are just going to load right into your system and update. So I'm going to open up the inventory module. This is basically the inventory management screen, and it works off an items list. So I'll be using a yellow highlighter just to kind of draw your attention to it. But this is the items list over here on the left-hand side. And when you click there, you're going to see this list of yellow folders here. So it's a very comfortable, familiar kind of Windows design. And what we're going to do here, of course, to see Mercury parts is there's going to be a Mercury folder down here. This dealer has right here. We'll click on Mercury, and that's going to put us in the Mercury parts and prices. So every single Mercury part number, description, and price is preloaded into the database here. If you wanted to go to land and see, very similarly, you click on land and see. And these folders represent the categories of inventory that this dealer has set up. You can just type in or scan in a part number up here at the top. So there's a search bar up at the top. And if I was wanting to pull this item up, I could pick up a barcode scanner, scan the item. And this is the original barcode now that's on the land and sea item. So when you pick up Mercury parts, they have a barcode on them. Land and sea parts have a barcode on them. You can just scan that original packaging and put in your stock, put in your bin location, just as an example, and save the item. And then, of course, you've got a stock record. So now it becomes an inventory record. So really all we're doing is we're just adding the bin location and the on-hand quantity. And that's letting us know that that's a record that we carry in our inventory. So if you wanted us to, Aaron, I don't know, you've got some inventory perhaps in the STAR. Well, I should ask you, is your inventory in that STAR system or not?
Yes.
So most likely we can extract a file from that system and we can convert that for you so that your inventory counts and bin locations will already be in here. And we could do the same thing for your customer file. Now, your pricing can be customized. There's a sell price there that's customizable, and there's 9 additional price points. And the program allows you to put in formulas and set up a matrix of pricing so that you can customize your sell price if you want to. Special price 1, for example, could be cost plus 15 or 20, depending on, maybe you sell Mercury parts to an independent shop and they get special pricing from you, maybe cost plus 20 or whatever it might be. So those price points can be calculated and computed and assigned to special customers. So in the customer's profile, you're able to go into a customer's profile, assign them a price point. So whatever pricing level they get or whatever discount they get, you can set that up, maybe cost plus a percentage, retail less a percentage, and then you don't have to remember what price that customer gets. The system will automatically apply the correct price every time you sell them something. So just to spend a little bit more time in the inventory module here, if you don't have a barcode on something, you can right-click on the item and just print a barcode here. So that's really easy to do. Either a single label or the on-hand quantity, which in this case is 2. So that would print me 2 labels. To use barcoding, we've got barcode scanners that we have available here. Barcode scanners don't have a lot of value until you have the price books loaded. Once you have the Mercury price book loaded, a Yamaha price book, an Evinrude, Land and Sea, you can pick up a scanner and you can scan almost any item that you pick up and it's going to come up. So the Honeywell 1902 scanners that typically sell for about $800 new are available for around $295. These are refurbished scanners that come with a charging dock. So they're similar to the old cordless phone. You pick them up, they're ready to go. You can scan an item when you're selling it or putting it into inventory or selling it on a service ticket or whatever. Those are really, really handy to have.
Just a question for you.
We had STAR for a very long time, so there's things that have been duplicated, and a lot of garbage in, garbage out type of stuff going on.
Yeah.
That's something that could be sorted to where it would be a clean switch over on stuff.
It's a great question. When we do the data conversion, of course, garbage in, garbage out is very much something worth talking about. It's a time saver, of course, to get your list data, which of course is your customer list and your parts inventory list. But before we go just grabbing that data and importing it into Commander, I always recommend that we put it like in an Excel spreadsheet first, and you can clean the data or scrub the data. There might be a lot of stuff in there that you don't want to bring in, maybe a lot of parts that you no longer carry, maybe some inventory that you just want to delete, suppliers maybe that you don't do business with anymore. So those would be something you'd want to do while it was in Excel before you sent the file to us. So we can extract the file and then get it into Excel and then maybe have you go through it. And I've actually got a format that I send to people in terms of what fields we would need to do the data import. So maybe what I would do is send that to you. Here's the customer layout, for example, of fields that we could import, a customer number and company name and so forth. And then there's an inventory file here that I'll scroll down and show you. So when we're doing an inventory import, these are some of the fields that we would go after. If they were available in STAR, we would get those exported. These column numbers would be just your column headers, A, B, C, D, and so forth. It's pretty routine for us. We do it all the time, so it's not something that we're unfamiliar with at all. Yeah, there's a lot of cleanup that can take place before we import the data. Yeah, otherwise you end up with the same mess that you have now, and you're trying to escape that, I would assume. All right, so this is the barcode printer slide that I'm showing here. I was demonstrating just a moment ago that you can right-click on a part number and print a barcode label. But in order to do that, you need a little thermal barcode printer. The current printer that we're selling is actually a GX420. And again, they are refurbished, means they're used printers. They're about twice that brand new, so around $249, $279, I think, for the GX420. But what's great about this is that it does a parts label, it does a customer address label, it does a serialized unit label, that's your boat, motor, trailer stuff, and it also does a barcoded service tag. So if somebody's dropping off a unit for service, you can print a service tag and it'll have the repair order number and the whole ID number or whatever else you want to put on it. It's coded to do that. It also does a label for customer special orders. When you special order a part for somebody and it comes in, it'll print a label that has the customer's name on it, the invoice that it came from. So when you're putting that part into the special order bins, you know exactly who that part belongs to. So well worth considering investing in barcoding scanner and also barcode printer if you're going to be using Commander. All right, so we're back on the items screen, and I just want to touch on a couple of things here. I told you could customize your pricing. Down at the bottom, there's a detail tab, and the detail tab allows you to set your reordering points. We use min-maxes as one of those. I use bread, milk, and eggs as an example, but if I do a 4 and 12, this is basically letting us know if the part falls below 4, the stock falls below 4, we want to order back to 12. So it's kind of like going to the refrigerator. You see there's 2 eggs left, and you know you got to go to the store and get another dozen eggs next time you're there. So things like spark plugs, oil, gaskets, filters, you've got certain items that you guys know you always want to have on the shelf. You don't ever want to be without those items. Using min-maxes is going to help you make sure that you maintain your stocking levels. When it's time to go shopping or go to the store, you're going to run your stock order. This is a way for you to check your min-maxes, see what you're low on, and the system's going to pick up. There's the 10 of that ball joint, which is the item we're using as an example, but it also picked up 3 other items that it thinks we should reorder too. And that's trying to get us back to that stocking level of 12, since our stock is at 2. The other method that's deployed there is this thing called one-to-one buyback, and that just is a stock replenishment method where if you have 1 on the shelf, you sell it, it replenishes it. If you had 2, you sell the 2, it replenishes it. It's just a way of making sure that you always keep those items on the shelf at the level that you had set for them. If I'm going to go ahead and sell something now as if somebody walked into my store and wanted to buy one of these items. So again, we're going to be using the scanner. We go to the invoicing program. And I want you to watch at the top. Every time I click on any one of these icons here on the side for navigation, it launches a tab at the top here. So you see the sales invoicing tab, but I could go back to items or come back to sales invoicing, and the navigation is instantaneous. It's almost like you're running an internet browser, which is, nicely familiar to everybody. In the invoicing screen, there's a right mouse click and then a left mouse click. So I'm just going to tap with my fingers, pick up the item, and I scan it with my scanner. It goes right onto the invoice, go to the checkout window, and print the invoice. All of that takes about 5 seconds. So if you're timing it in terms of, well, how long does it take to sell something? You're looking at 5 to 7 seconds, and you can print a ticket and get somebody out the door, which is really great if you think about it. A lot of systems are not very intuitive when it comes to creating point of sale invoices. We can add our customer. So if we do a data conversion for you from Star, you're going to be able to do a search here. And let's say we're looking for, Jones, just as an example. And there's Brock. I've got a lot of Joneses here, as you can see, or Sabrina. And we put their name on the ticket. If you're adding a brand new customer, that new button right there is going to allow you to put in a customer's name, first name, last name, phone number, email, company name, address, and so forth. If it's linked to QuickBooks, if Commander and QuickBooks are linked together, it actually adds the customer to QuickBooks the next time you run the sync. So there's no duplicate entry when you're actually adding customers, which is going to minimize your workflow or workload a little bit for you. So on the checkout window here, our payment methods are on the left here: cash, check, debit card, credit card. So depending on how they're paying you, gift card, or of course you could put it on their account if you wanted to, and that would push an invoice into QuickBooks with a balance due, which creates the receivable balance for you to track in the QuickBooks receivables module. But let's just pretend for a moment that they gave us cash and they gave us $100. We add that payment and it makes change. So there's the amount tendered, and we've got $62.99 as the change. We can email an invoice, or we can just invoice the ticket here, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and print an invoice. Because we selected cash as a payment method, it's prompting us to give the customer's change back there. You can see the $62.99. And now we get a variety of choices with our receipt style. So one of the receipts that prints is a little thermal receipt like this, and that's going to be really just for part sales. You're not going to use this receipt style for service. But if you do a high volume of parts tickets at the parts counter, not a bad idea to invest in one of these little Star printers. And the current printer I think that we're selling is a Star TSP 143 Eco. And they're about $249, I think. So the price has gone up maybe just a little bit. But you get a receipt like this that you see on the right-hand side. That's the thermal receipt. And you can tie these to a cash drawer if you want to. Now, if you don't want to do that, and you prefer to just print the regular plain paper 8.5 by 11 invoices, we just flip the print style here. You don't have to choose it every time. Or you could email the receipts if you wanted to. And you're going to get a 8.5 by 11 receipt. This starts out as a blank sheet of paper, and Commander will create the receipt for you. So let's pause for a second and see if there's any questions on just that simple sales process, printing invoices, collecting payments. Should be fairly straightforward, but I just want to make sure that we have questions covered if there are questions. Any questions, guys?
All good. All good.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do next is go back to the items screen here and refresh it. And of course, we sold one, so we're going to see that it took the item out of stock. We can see now we only have one in stock. There's our stock, and there's our stock. It records the sales history right down here at the bottom for us. So what we're going to have is a place at any point we want to. We can go down to the bottom, take a look at the sales history. We can select the starting and ending date. So depending on what time period you choose to look at. In this case, we're just doing month to date, but we could have also looked at, the last 30 days or 60 days or, last year or whatever it is that we decide to look at. We can view the sales history, and we can see the one there that we sold to Sabrina Jones. We can see that our cost was $17.84. We sold for $34.19, and we made a $16.35 profit, which was 91.65 GP. Now, as you continue to sell that item over a period of time, these numbers are going to be accumulative. So the profit snapshot and the sales history are going to accumulate. So at any point, you can go back and look. If you're wondering how many you sold last year, you could go back and run it, let's say, from January through December, and you would have a list of all of the customers you had sold that item to, and accumulatively how much money you had made. And that, of course, is also really helpful when you're determining things like min-maxes to set stocking levels, to be able to view the sales history and see it. You can graph it for seasonality. There's a graph that will give you a more visual representation if you wanted to look at it and measure the seasonality of the item in terms of when it was selling more and when it was selling less. All right, I'm going to zero the item out, guys, as if I just went in here and manually made an adjustment. And so I've just adjusted the quantity from a 1 to a 0. And the most common question with that really comes from managers typically. If I do that and I make an adjustment to the stock, is there some place that I can go to see that that adjustment was made? And we do have a report in the system. It's one of the management reports that you would have access to, called an Item Changes Audit Report. And this report is going to give you a list for any time period, again, that you choose, and you'll be able to view the changes made to an item. So in this particular case here, the item is here at the bottom, and we had one in stock. After we made the adjustment, there were only 0, so there was a -1 adjustment. And typically what you're doing there is you're seeing the name of the user that was logged in, because everybody gets a username and a password with the system, and the exact date and time that the adjustment was made. So anytime anybody calls me and says, I thought I had 2 and Commander says there's only 1 and, there's a problem, 1 has disappeared, we're always able to come here and take a look. Even if there's cost adjustments or other adjustments made to the item, they're all sent to a log file here so that we can help decipher some of those mysteries that sometimes come up when you're trying to manage inventory. All right, I no longer have this item in stock. So if this was going to be something that I was going to try and sell directly from a price book because I don't have any, I could put the item on an invoice, And of course, I could put a customer's name on it if I choose to here. Let's use Mike Chestnut here. And I don't have any in stock. So at this point, I'm seeing that my stock is 0 because of this fill quantity here. This fill quantity is an immediate indication that I do not have it because I cannot fill it. So that's one of the methods in the new version that you know you don't have it. So typically, it has to be special ordered at that point. And on the checkout window, you can preset your deposit for special orders to 100%. So 3701 would be my deposit that I'd be looking to collect, including the sales tax, if I was looking to get 100%. Now, you can change the deposit percentage to 0. If you know the guy real well, he can just pay you on pickup. You could collect partial deposit, go with 50%, or whatever you decide to do there is fine. I'm going to go with 100% on a special order item here, and I'm going to take a credit card payment. And at this point, you can post or invoice it. The primary difference is that if you just post it, the ticket remains open so that the person can actually purchase additional product on the same ticket when they come to pick it up. If you invoice it, it closes the ticket. So here we have an invoice that just printed. And if you look carefully at the invoice, we can actually see that the item was paid for and the total due there on pickup is 0. They don't owe us any money when they come to get it because they've already paid for it. Okay, so that's a special order ticket, and that's the deposit detail there in the middle. You don't have to write the item down on a clipboard. If you have clipboards laying near the counter or whatever, this is all taken care of electronically for you. If you do take a look at the invoice itself, you're going to see on the very right-hand column here, on the very right-hand side, you're going to see the status is marked here on the right as special order, SO, and it's got that red flag there. That means that item has to be special ordered for this customer. And the item is actually sent to something called the PO pad. I'm also using a green shading on my main grid here because we just introduced color coding into Commander, and I can choose the colors. So any incompleted ticket right now, which is a posted ticket, one that I haven't yet finally invoiced, I'm using a green shading for the status of a posted ticket. Finally, when I do actually invoice it and cashier it, that green shading will disappear. But if you look in the top left-hand corner, there's going to be something called the PO pad. This is the purchase order pad, and that item is already sitting there. And I can see that it's a special order item that I've got to get from Land and Sea. There's the part number sitting here. And I can see that I've got to order it. It came from invoice number 59, and I'm ordering it for Mike Chestnut. So all day long, as I'm using the system, I don't have to worry too much about losing track of my special orders. They're all going to come to the PO pad here. And a little later in the demo, I'm going to come back and create an actual purchase order and show you how that works. But that's how we handle special orders in the parts department with regard to ordering product that you don't have. Now, do remember that when you have the entire price book loaded, you can type in any part number, any Mercury item, any Land and Sea item, it won't matter. But because we have the whole price book loaded, the item is going to come up. You're going to have the price, the description, and it's going to make that whole ordering process a lot easier than, for example, using Star, where you'd have to put the item in and put the description in and put the pricing in and put the cost in and put the retail price in and so forth, because it was an item that you'd never added to the system before. So we do have that distinct advantage having all the product already in the database. So that kind of concludes the point of sale module, if you wish, in terms of just selling parts, barcoding, sales history, reorder points, customized pricing, a lot of good stuff going on there for you guys. Next, I'm going to go to the service module. Yes, sir.
You were saying a couple things on all the flipboards lying around on different orders. I understand. How would you be doing the ordering process as far as, say, you take in 10 special orders that day, they're all Mercury parts. How are you converting that now to an order when it's time to order at the end of the day?
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an invoice for you. And I'm going to put a customer on here. And I'm going to put some Mercury items on here for you. And I'm just going to drop down to the Mercury price book here. Get to his Mercury stuff. And I'm just doing this because I don't have any actual Mercury part numbers in my head. So I'm just going to try and use a couple here. So I'm going to take these 4 items. And I'm actually going to zero out the quantities as if he didn't have them. I'm going to force them to special order as if I didn't have them. So again, let's say these 4 items were needed from Mercury and you didn't have them. In this case, I'll go to the checkout window. We'll just talk about the deposit. We'll go ahead and we'll take a credit card. And again, you don't have to, but I'm just going to do that just for purposes of the demo. So now we have 4 Mercury items essentially that are going to be tagged for special order. You can see them on the right there. The shading is slightly different. The blue shading kind of lets me know I actually have those items in stock, but I'm going to order them anyway. And if we go to the PO pad, which was the little digital notepad that writes everything down for us, we're going to see that those Mercury parts are right here on the PO pad. And what we do next is we create a purchase order, which is the little shopping cart here. Right mouse click new. So that's sort of a tap, tap, same thing we do. And then from the PO pad, we take the Mercury items, drag our mouse down over them, create a purchase order, and Mercury would in fact be our supplier if we were going to get these from Mercury. So you always choose your vendor, then create the order. So what I did there is I created an outstanding purchase order for Mercury. And then if you look in the top middle of the screen, there's an export function. And the export function, depending on the supplier that you're ordering from, in this case, MercNet for Mercury, is going to push out a file that's compatible with Mercury's ordering system. That's the method that we're using to create an order that then will upload into Mercury's system. And probably the best way, most of the time when I'm demoing this feature, I demo it in the repair order module because there's actually more functionality available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little YouTube video, and this is going to extend that conversation a little bit further and allow us to actually see it on a bigger scale. So I'll actually mute the audio and I'll just talk us through the video, and I'll pause it. Business management software. I'll pause it multiple times here just because I can do it in real time faster than I can explain it. So usually you're working inside of MercNet and you're working with Easy Parts 5. You can right click on a part, add it to a pick list. So you're working inside the Mercury schematics here and you need parts and you say, all right, I need this fuel pump kit, right click, add to a pick list. And so you're essentially just grabbing the items and you're creating a shopping cart while you're inside Mercury's system. My pick list, I called it Commander. So there it is there. There's my pick list. There's Commander. And I'll pause for a second here. It has these 7 items on it. And these might be parts that I need for a particular repair, right? So I'm doing a job and I need these parts because we're going to look at the service module next in just a second here. There's an export button inside of this system. You click and export the parts, and that makes the file available. So now I'm starting a new service ticket in Commander. I'm going to search for my customer, and I'm going to use customer Brandon Atkins here. So we select the customer to get the service ticket started. And we can actually click on the right to see what boat the customer owns and grab that to the service ticket. So this is all in real time. And then at the top in the middle, there's an import button, which you click and those parts drop right in. So what you're seeing there, and I'm pausing the video again, what you're seeing there is the way Commander is integrated with Mercury's EPC and brings the parts in from Easy Parts 5, which used to be Midas, and now it's doing it with Easy Parts 5. But again, I can see that I don't have any of the parts in stock. So, if this was an actual active job, I can either save it as an estimate, or if the customer gives us the green light for the work, we post the ticket, in which case all these items are now placed on special order. So you're going to see the SO or special order flag right there on the right-hand side. With the new software, it also shades that red. So again, now we go to the purchase order module, something I was just demonstrating. We create a purchase order for Mercury, and we're going to open up the PO pad, drag our mouse down over the Mercury parts, and add them to the purchase order. Again, no typing. And I just created a brand new purchase order for Mercury. I'm now going to export the purchase order in MercNet's format. And now I'm going to log into Mercury's shopping cart. So I go into my dealer portal. Up there in the top right is an upload button. I browse for the file that was just created in Commander, and I apply it to the shopping cart, and all those parts now are uploaded into Mercury's system just like that, and I'm going to pause it again. That's an extended answer to what you were asking in terms of how we get the parts ordered through Commander and through to Mercury. Now we do the same thing with Land and Sea and other companies. It just so happens that that demo shows Mercury in particular.
Right, you took it off of different service tickets and you took it off of one customer's invoice. Is there a way, I understand you created a shopping cart in Mercury. Is that the only way to say if you had 10 different customers to join them together, if you understand what I'm asking?
Well,
all of the orders at the end of the day, you have 10 customers ordering, say, 3 items apiece.
Every time somebody special orders something, like in this case, I've got an Art Claxton and I just did one customer. I don't have to do each one individually. I mean, I can combine them all onto one order, and it would make sense to do that rather than do multiple orders, because accumulatively, the total dollar amount for the order is going to qualify me for free freight. That would be one of the things I would want to do if Mercury pays the freight at $50 or $100 or sometimes $200. That's a setting I can set up in Commander that lets me know when I qualify for free shipping. But I don't have to do them one at a time. I'm just in the demo. For purposes of the demo, I'm showing it one customer at a time. But what will happen during the day is you'll be doing service tickets and you'll be doing part sales. And as you're doing service tickets and you need parts from Mercury, they're going to the PO pad. As you're selling parts that you don't have and need a special order, they're going to the PO pad. At some point before the cutoff with Mercury, you want to go to the purchase order module and create a purchase order that you would then upload into Mercury's system. And you could combine 30 different customers on the same purchase order, just dragging your mouse down over them and populating your purchase order. Your individual customer names would display here. So if you had other customers, they would just be displaying underneath this. And I don't know if that's what you're asking me, but I'm trying to understand where are we missing each other in translation, and just in terms of what you're looking for or what you're asking.
A little bit. I'm not, part of my following this. Our cutoff's 12 o'clock. We always do our Mercury then. Yes, we always make sure there's plenty for free freight to take advantage of that. So in the morning when we're checking out different boats, getting them through, of course, having customers come in and creating the stuff left over from the day before, we all do that on a clipboard and we enter it in. Obviously, if we're not going to be using that, we kind of need to be able to do a sales report or some kind of parts report thing that we would be able to run at, say, 11:30 to prepare our order that we're going to submit to Mercury. That's the part I think it'll work with your system. I just need to spend more time understanding it and make it and learn it.
There's the parts going into Mercury's system. So the first thing that's happening is your clipboard is replaced with something called the PO pad. The PO pad becomes your clipboard. So all of the parts that need to be ordered, whether it's from Mercury or from other suppliers, are already waiting for you on the PO pad. It's a little digital clipboard, and it has everything on it that needs to be ordered. Right now, there's only one Land and Sea item remaining because it purges itself when the items go to the purchase order. When it's time to place the order, everything is sitting on the PO pad waiting for you. You're dragging the parts to a purchase order and then uploading it into Mercury's system. So there's no room for error because there's no transposing of numbers, and it's just drag and drop. You drop them to a purchase order. The purchase order has the items on it, just like this one. But this purchase order could have 30 different parts on it for 30 different customers. It wouldn't matter. Every single line item could be a different customer for a different job and a different invoice. It makes no difference. There's one PO pad. Everything collects to the PO pad, and you can see who the supplier is. You're going to notice, let me do one more. In fact, let's do a service ticket. Let's go to a repair order, just like we did just a moment ago in the video, because this will probably be the best way to see the flow of it as we go through it. So again, we're going to go right mouse click, new service ticket. We're going to do a search for our customer, and we'll use the same customer. We'll use Atkins. So there he is. We choose our customer. That selects him to the service ticket. We go across to the right to see what boat he owns. Shows us he's got a sea ark and a trailer. Now, if we don't see his boat here, we're going to be able to add it for the first time. We can put it in there, add it to his profile, put the information on the boat in there. So it's got all the fields available to do that. Choosing one, we're going to select the sea ark for service. We have the ability to add photographs if we want to, other things that we might want to update on the actual boat record. We can type in what the customer service request is. Why, what are we doing for you today? So will not start, or, whatever the case might be. Need batteries. So this is just, these are just generic notes, obviously, for the technician. So now we've got an actual service ticket started and we're in estimate mode. That import button at the top dead center is going to bring the parts in from Easy Parts 5 if we were using Easy Parts 5. If we're not, we could just as easily be typing in an 18-2100 gimbal bearing from Sierra. And then a little cross-reference launches, and we can see here that Sierra gimbal bearing is also a Landon C710- whatever this is. We'll select it, don't have the item in stock, and so it goes, right? So you can either type in, scan in, or just select the items. So let's say I've got some A&M, and for this demonstration, I'm going to use 3 A&M items. Now let's just use these 2. We're going to use a handful of A&M items. Okay, so there's some A&M items, but in addition to that, I'm going to put a different vendor's items on here just because I want to show you that it really doesn't matter that there's only one PO pad. So I'm going to go advanced. So there's some advanced items. This is a different supplier, and I'll just use 2 suppliers because 2 should be enough to demonstrate the point. So if I'm just doing an estimate at this point, I save it, I can email it to the customer, my inventory levels are not affected, I don't have any problems. But right now, I've got a Land and Sea item, I've got 4 A&M items, and I've got 4 advanced items. So 3 different suppliers' parts going on to this one work order. It could be separate work orders, but I'm just doing it all on one work order. When I post the ticket, everything that I need to order is sent to one PO pad. Everything is flagged in the right-hand side there with those red flags. All that product has to be ordered, and it's all gone to the PO pad. It's like already been written down for me on my digital notepad. So when I go to the PO pad and take a look at it, you're going to see, even though it's for, in this case, for one customer, right? It's all for Brandon Atkins, but you can actually see there's the advanced items. So it identifies them. There's the advanced items. There's the A&M items. And there's some Land and Sea items. So even though they're on one PO pad, they're sorted separately. And when I go to create my purchase orders, let's say I'm creating a purchase order for advanced. I go to the purchase order, right mouse click new. I open up a purchase order and I only want the advanced items. So I open it up, I drag my mouse down over those items, select them, and now they're off the clipboard and they are on an advanced purchase order. I would create for that supplier, if that was the supplier that, I don't want to use A&M because that's actually the next one we're going to do, but we would create the first order like that. So now when we go back to create our second order and we look at what's on the PO pad, those advanced items are gone. The only ones left are the A&M items. So now I select them and I choose A&M as the supplier and create the order. So just like that, I'm dragging them off the PO pad onto separate purchase orders. We don't want them on the same purchase order when they get submitted. Obviously, they've got to be on separate orders, but it's very easy to manage the data on one clipboard because then I know that I've ordered absolutely everything and didn't miss anything by not looking at my 25 different PO pads. Here's Land and Sea. I just grabbed, those are the last 2 items I haven't ordered. Everything else is gone from the clipboard because as soon as I drag it to a purchase order, it purges itself from the actual PO pad itself. So it becomes easy to manage because I'm now creating my purchase orders. There we go, 1, 2, 3, create the order. And I just created 3 separate purchase orders, a Land and Sea, an A&M, and an Advanced Marine. 1, 2, 3, there they are. And they're all outstanding purchase orders. And if I look at what's on my PO pad now, refresh it, nothing. The PO pad is blank. So the PO pad purges itself when the items are moved onto a purchase order.
A lot of times what we do is we will shop different pricing through the different vendors. is Land and Sea, of course, will sell a lot of things such as, say, a blower for a boat and a marine wholesale wheel. Is there any way to, obviously we can hop on their website, shop pricing, but then we need to spend the time doing that and create a, put it on the PO pad and then put it in as a purchase order after at that point. So is there any way to, with your price files that you implement into Commander, where it's pick best price or anything along those lines?
Sierra had a cross-reference that they made available, and with the item reference tab down at the bottom, right here, that is a way that you can link items together and can do a comparison between them. So what I did was I did the gimbal bearing, the 18-2100, just as an example, and we had looked up that item. So there's Sierra's gimbal bearing, and if I go to the item reference tab at the bottom, I'm going to see that that Sierra gimbal bearing is available. It was previously a Mercury number that got superseded. It was an Evinrude number that got superseded. There's Land and Sea's number for it. There's Marysville Marine's number. There's Mercury's number, which was superseded. There's a Sierra number and a Volvo Penta number. And you can actually add data to the cross-reference yourself. And in this particular case, of course, you can also see the cost comparison between those items in terms of who has it at the best price. So the cross-reference data, we've imported a fair amount of cross-reference data into Commander using this cross-reference loader that we have, but it's mostly linked to the Sierra item. So that's the available data for cross-referencing. There is an extended cross-reference available from Huggins, and they get about $500 a year for it, I think. But we also wrote integration with the Huggins, and this is going to be inactive, I'm sure. I could activate it and show it to you, but that's extended cross-reference data. If cross-shopping vendors for companies that have the best price or trying to find it from a different source, and having an extended version of that was important to you, I'll show you what that looks like. It sounds like it might be something that's actually important to you.
It's okay. You don't need to, it's okay. Just to know how that works.
Yeah, so if you do have an active Huggins subscription and you click on that tab, there's an extended list of additional vendors that might also supply that same part. But in our system, if the cross-reference data is available, it loads kind of, you're almost like selecting the item ahead of, like if I was putting that gimbal bearing on an invoice, I get that choice as I'm adding it. So as I'm putting it on an invoice, and I choose that, I'm actually seeing the cost price from Sierra versus, Mercury at 41. That was the old number. And then the new Mercury number. And then so you can work your way down. $68 from Mercury. Marysville has it for 64. Land and Sea has it for 66. So, in all of this, you could make a decision at that point. Well, we're going to get it from Marysville for $64, but we should sell it for $111 because that's the price that they sell it for. So there's your biggest spread is probably between these two items here. But that information is available in the purchase order too. All right, in the service department, it's a little bit different. We were looking at that service ticket. We had an outstanding purchase order, and so we were waiting for those items to come in. So as soon as your parts are being received on a purchase order, when the parts arrive, you can receive the order. We have this Art Claxton, these Art Claxton items that were received. I'm going to go ahead and receive all these just as if we received all the product. Now you can keep things on back order. You can adjust the cost. You can print barcode labels. There's a variety of things you can do as you receive the order. You can even enter the bill if you want to, and it'll post into QuickBooks. This bill entry screen here is going to send the bill into the QuickBooks Payables module. But I'm just going ahead and I'm receiving these orders. So here's the Land and Sea order, and we're going to go ahead and receive that as well. So now we've received a variety of different product for different customers. And in the morning, and we want to run a list to let us know where everything's got to go. So everything that came in today can be generated on a list, and it's going to show me all of the product that came in for various jobs and customers. And it's sorted by customer, but it shows me repair order 119, repair order 118. There's an invoice. These are the Art Claxton Mercury parts that came in. Here's the Mike Chestnut item. So it's more of a parts distribution list, if you wish, so you know where the parts have got to go. We go back to the service ticket, pull it up, update it. All the items fill in on the ticket like that, so we don't have to populate each line one at a time. And now we can see the right-hand column no longer says special order. All those items have come in and they can be picked from inventory for this particular job. So now it's just a question of adding the labor and then billing it out. Now, labor, if you guys want to, we can import the Spader labor guide, which is on this wrench here on the side. So this is about 39,000 labor codes that are divided up into different categories. So if you wanted to have preset labor codes with labor descriptions and labor hours, here's all the alternators, for example. These are all labor operations, divided up, antennas, these are, whatever, autopilot, axles, batteries. This is an optional thing if you want to load a labor guide in here. Otherwise, you just create your own labor codes, or we could pull the labor codes from STAR and have those teed up for you in this screen right here. So I'm going to go into the repair order again, and I'm just going to add some labor. And usually your hourly rate would be, preset in here. The labor lines can be positioned anywhere. They can be positioned at the top if you want, or in the middle. If you have more than one job going on, you might choose to have multiple labor lines on the ticket. So I'm going to put a couple on here for different jobs that we might be doing.
So I can see what you're doing right there where I see it says task 1. My guess is you're coming up with task 2.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, yeah, all that labor and those parts right there might be part of one job. And so you may choose to use a task assignment or give it a title. It might be port engine and starboard engine if you wanted to. That's a pretty common way of using it as well. But that'll give you a separate subtotal on the work order, so you can see how much each task cost individually, how many hours went into each job. So let's say there were 2 hours that went into this job here and 3 hours that went into this job. So that's just a general idea of that feature. Now the labor descriptions, marine guys like to put in big, long labor descriptions. So it'll open up and give you all the detail you need here as far as description. So you can enter a long description, so you can put that in there into the detail and it'll open up. It's a dynamic field that opens right up for you. Okay. And of course, if I was using the Spader labor guide, I'd click in here and go, okay, well, what am I doing? Let me go to labor here. Let's take a look at the alternators or aerators or whatever. And then I would be able to choose something from a preset list of labor codes, select that to the service ticket like that. So there's that one. I'm going to remove it. All right. So that's the tasking feature, kind of a nice feature. The labor lines, I want you guys to look in the bottom left-hand corner. And anytime I'm clicked on a labor line, everything down in the bottom left applies to that line. So I can assign a technician who's going to do the work. Leroy's going to do that job. And maybe this top job over here, I'm going to assign to a different technician, maybe Caleb. So you can assign technicians so they get credit for the billable hours. There's a time clock, so the techs can actually clock in and out, and they can do that inside the work order and outside of the work order. There's a place for them to clock in and clock out. And that's basically to keep track of actual time if we're trying to keep track of how long they actually spent on that service ticket. So that's just to help monitor, the number of hours and then calculate efficiency. Maybe they come back and say, I did an hour and a half. They don't want to use the time clock. You can just type a value in there. There's also a scheduler, guys, down at the bottom, in the bottom left. If you look carefully, you'll see a schedule button here. And this is so you can send the appointment to a calendar. So if I needed Caleb for 2 hours, I'm able to click there and actually send that. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule that job for Caleb. It's going to take the next 2 available hours here and schedule it. He's going to finish it up tonight before he leaves, maybe log a little overtime or whatever. And 3 hours for Leroy, we're going to schedule that. And it's going to put that on a calendar. So this could be, a haul and launch that you were scheduling for Friday or whatever. It doesn't really matter. As soon as you have that teed up like that, there's a technician calendar up in the top left. I'll open it up for you. This can be run on a separate monitor out in the shop if you want to. Every technician has a different color, and you could get a week view like this, and you would see the jobs that they're scheduled to do. So these two that we put right here in blue and the sort of teal color are the two that we just sent to the calendar. So this keeps you, it helps you keep track of workflow, and technicians can come in, ask what they're working on, and you can direct them to the actual service ticket and the actual job that they're assigned to do for that time increment. All right, cashiering the ticket, fairly simple. All right, I go to the checkout window. This is where we get our money. It's $1,173. And of course, your payment methods are right here, cash, check, credit card, and so forth. So these are the different payment methods that are available for the customer to tender. We just released a feature now that if they do choose a credit card payment method, you can pass the merchant fee on to them. So that's going to become fairly popular as time goes on. It's not hugely popular yet, but a lot of people are starting to ask, can I have the customer pay the 2% or the 3%? If they pay by credit card, I want to pass that fee on to them. So there's a feature to turn that on. It's a preference. It's not automatic. It's something you have to select and turn on. As I understand it, you can't discriminate. If you charge one person, you have to charge everybody. So let's say they were paying with a credit card and a Visa and they paid the ticket. Shop fees are being added. That's something to notice down here. I've got $31 in shop fees that got added, and those are being added automatically. Typically, Commander will calculate shop fees as a percentage of the labor amount. So you can set it up to collect 2%, 3%, 4%, if you want to get real aggressive, 5% of the labor total, and it'll automatically compute shop fees. If you just want to add $10 to each service ticket, you can do that. But either way, it's not going to allow you to forget to charge for shop fees if that's something that you want to do. So we'll go ahead and pay this ticket, and we'll go ahead and invoice it, and we're going to get our final service ticket. So I'm going to set this now just to print a service ticket that I like. And we'll use a tasking work order, and you only have to select this once in the beginning. You don't have to select it each time. There's an email option there, but I'm going to go ahead and invoice it. And we're printing the final bill. Now remember, we used the tasking feature. So what we're going to see if it prints the form with the tasking on it is you're going to see it divides the work order into two separate sections. So you're actually getting a subtotal. Your logo is printing at the top. It's barcoding the ticket. And then the tasking feature is giving me these two separate subtotals here for the two different jobs that we did. Questions?
Can we change the layout of the invoice?
Well, there's about 80 different layouts already in the system. So you can't change the layout other than changing the logo and the messages and so forth. I mean, I could reprint this ticket just as an example of how easy it is. I could get rid of the tasking feature and reprint it. I'd have a different layout just by eliminating tasking. I could very easily, so now I don't get the grouping, right? I could come back and I could print it without part numbers. Maybe you want to do an estimate for somebody and you don't want them to see the part numbers. So I'm going to print something, give the guy an estimate, email it to him right there from the top dead center of the screen, and now he gets an invoice where I don't disclose what the part numbers are. And each time we do this, the format is going to be slightly different. We can do landscape, we can do portrait, we can remove the logo. There's a variety of different print styles, but no, you don't design your own form. But I think with the different print templates that are in there, generally people find one that works for them. If you wanted to group, if you wanted the labor separate in one section and the parts separately in another section, you can use your tasking feature to do that. There's a way of manipulating the data into almost any format that you want it in.
Is there a way to edit, like your legal disclaimer you put at the bottom?
Yes, all the message boxes, the disclaimers, the header, the messages, all editable. You can go into the preferences here of the program. Yeah, and I know in California we have emissions waivers and other things, so there's a lot of things that apply sometimes in California. But there's the service disclaimer, for example. So this disclaimer text, down here at the bottom is editable. You could come in here and just say, and then get rid of the emission waiver. Some people don't want that. change the signature lines, put the text in that you want, apply, okay. And that's what's going to print, as well as the other messages on the form, of course. Also, you'll notice that one form that I printed had a message box at the top as well. And then some people just choose to remove the logo and do just straight text at the top. I mean, that's entirely up to you. So that's the service side of things. The only thing I didn't show you was the kit feature or common jobs. Anytime you have a common job and you want to repetitively do an engine rebuild or tune up or whatever, you can create lists or save common jobs and reuse them in the system so you don't have to add the parts and labor. And then we extended that feature into something called a duplicate button. So any invoice, let's say I had another customer that came in and needed this exact same job. There's a duplicate button up there at the top that allows us to basically create a whole new work order that looks exactly like this one with all these items on it, but just choose a different customer and a different vessel and get it going. So it's kind of a shortcut to creating a new ticket. Tap that duplicate button.
Service, winterization, stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great example of it. Yeah. Guys are heavy in winterization, just duplicate over and over and over and just keep going. It's really great.
Typing the same write-up over and over and over again.
It's like me doing the same demos over and over and over, right? There should be a way not to have to do that. I don't know if you guys are interested in QuickBooks integration, but QuickBooks integration is available for the desktop versions of QuickBooks. And we push the customer data, the invoices, the work orders, the payments and bills, transfer from Commander across into QuickBooks. It's a $475 module for setup and $50 a month for the support. But that's an optional module that you can bolt on to Commander if you want to run QuickBooks as a backend. And the reason you might consider doing it is if you have a lot of accounts receivables that you're carrying, it has benefit. And also, if you want the money coming across so you can bank it, it pushes it across into undeposited funds. It pushes the bills across for payment into your payables module, adds the customers to QuickBooks, things like that. So just keep in mind that that module is available if you do choose to deploy it. You can do it in the beginning or add it later. It makes no difference. But that's something that a number of our marine customers do, primarily because we don't do banking and payroll and bill pay in Commander. We're doing that in QuickBooks. But everything else, at the end of the day, most of the reports that you need to run your business, right down to the general ledger level, are going to be in Commander. There's a sales tax report for you. There's a technician recap report that's letting you know the technician's billable hours. And of course, inventory valuation, you're going to get the costing of your inventory. What are my top selling items? What are my obsolescence items that are not selling? We store sales history. There's just a myriad of reports in Commander for you to manage your business. And we also have on the toolbar on the side, we have a custom report generator. So there's no shortage of reports. Obviously, we've been in business for a long time. We have a lot of dealers using the system. And certainly most of the reports that you could ever think of to request have already been written. Merchant services is something we need to mention. We're with Global WorldPay. Global is the largest merchant provider worldwide. We don't quote rates or sell the merchant services. You would have to contact them directly and get rates from them. But I'm just mentioning that if you do want to tie in your merchant portal or your merchant services to Commander so that when you go to, for example, when you go to the checkout window and you want to cashier somebody, there's credit card options here that we can activate so that a little window opens up in the middle of the screen. You hit the process button and it collects the money at the same time. Short of that, you could do it the way I just did it here, where you choose credit card as a payment method, invoice it, and then of course you would have to type the dollar amount in on whatever device you were using or hardware you were using to collect the actual money. Some people like the idea of just having it integrated, and so that's done through Global. So if you want to contact them at some point, if we do reach that point in our relationship with you, you can do that. I'd have to say about half our dealers are with them and half are not, so it's kind of a 50-50 split, just depending on how you're positioned with your local bank and so forth. Data conversion, we kind of looked at this slide earlier in the demo, but we're back on it again. And this is to pull the customer list and the inventory and serialized boat motor trailer stuff from your star invoicing program, convert it. We charge $250 to do the data conversion, which is really undercharging for it because it's a fairly complex task. It takes a while, as you mentioned, with the scrubbing and cleanup of data and getting it all in there and getting it nicely organized. But it is a service that we offer to help people and certainly to save time making the switch. Pricing for Commander, I may have already sent you guys pricing. You're talking about 5 computers, 4 to 5. So if we were to discuss Commander pricing for 5 computers, we start out at $2,400 for one, we go to $29 for 2, and then each seat after that is $250. So if you were doing 5 computers, you'd have 3 additional licenses at $250 added on to your 29, which is $36.50. If you did the data conversion, $250 for that, puts you at $39. I think all in, if you guys, I don't know if you want the QuickBooks interface or not, but just to kind of look at high and low, on the low side, $36.50 without the data conversion. Data conversion's $250, so it puts us at $39. Honda IN interface is $300, puts you at $42. And if you did the QuickBooks interface, it's $475 for that. So that's about as high as it would go if you went all in with all of those different services and features. The maintenance after that, well, let's talk about what you get first for that number. So the price quoted there includes the installation and the training and everything else. So that's us setting it up and training you. It's all included in that number. After you pay the initial startup amount, there's a software license renewal that you pay, and it's based on the number of users as well. So $100 a month if you're doing 1 computer, $120 a month if you're doing 2, and then it goes up $10 a seat, $130 for 3, $140 for 4, $150 for 5. So at 5 computers, which is what you guys are talking about, you'd be looking at $150 a month. And then the QuickBooks integration would add $50 to that. So you'd be looking at $200 total with QuickBooks integration, or $150 a month without QuickBooks integration. In return, you get your price updates for all your suppliers. So that's going to include your Honda update, or your Mercury update. Technical support's included, ongoing training is included, and software updates and new features are included. So when you guys are looking at software updates for the software itself, one of the things we just released was this color coding into the grid. And that's to help, your eye kind of drill down on open work orders versus, we give them a status called posted, but it helps you. If you're looking at it, you can see the green ones are the ones that are still open. So that's a feature that we're releasing as a software update. It's a new feature. The dealers don't pay anything for the new software. They just pay their monthly, $100 a month if you're on 1 computer, $120 for 2, $130 for 3, $150 for 5, and with the QuickBooks integration, $200 a month. There's no minimum contract, so we're not going to lock you in for 5 years or whatever. You guys are welcome to stay as long as you want or leave anytime you want. We've got dealers that are still with us after 25 years plus and are still with us. So we've had a long journey with a lot of people. Barcode scanners, barcode printers, those are purchased separately. The installation process is basically a download. We send you some links, you download the software, and then we actually connect in and install it for you. So you're not going to have to hire an IT person or be an IT person. We'll do the install for you. And then we have a training class every Wednesday, which was in fact this morning. But every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, new dealers get training. And we also offer training for new hires. And that's included. There's no additional cost for the training. And that allows everybody to stay up to speed on what's happening with the software. If you hire a new parts manager or a service tech or somebody that needs some training, it's great to be able to just steer them to that Wednesday class and get them up to speed using the software. Tech support team takes care of you after that. After you guys are installed, we'll do an onboarding call with you. That's a one-on-one call where we basically connect with you and go through any additional setup items that you're struggling with or need help with, and just make sure that you're out the gate invoicing, doing service tickets, doing everything you need to do. And then our tech support hours are Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. now to 4 p.m., no longer 5 p.m. We just shortened by an hour because we just don't get any calls after 4 in the afternoon. Lots of videos on our website as far as training goes, plenty of training videos. And that's it as far as the actual slides go. So unless you guys have questions, the only thing we could spend a lot of time looking at are the different reports, but needless to say, everything from sales tax to how much money's in the register at the end of the day to, like I said, inventory valuations. And you don't have to be a programmer to run the reports. You open up a report like this, everything that has an on-hand quantity greater than 0, there you go, view the report, and you're going to get a 1 or more. And that's going to give you an extended cost value. So the reports are very, very easy to run, very fluid. So the whole program, in fact, has been very carefully thought out. If you look at the navigation, if I click on invoicing, I see a grid of all the invoices, right mouse click, new invoice, that gets me a new one started. If I go to service, I click on the service module, I see a grid of all the service tickets, right mouse click new, starts a new service ticket. There we go. If I go to the purchase order module, click on purchase orders, there's all the purchase orders, right mouse click new, starts a new purchase order. So those types of things with navigation, and of course this tab navigation along the top, which I was pointing out earlier, allows you to tab back and forth between the different modules. I've never seen another program that's actually, quite honestly, that intuitive in terms of moving around between the different modules, dragging and dropping items onto tickets and purchase orders, and very, very minimal typing or manual keystroke entry with the program. We've tried to design it around the idea that people would like to rather drag and drop data, import data, rather than do a lot of manual entry. Now, the only other thing we haven't really looked at, and I don't know, is the QuickBooks. I haven't shown you guys any sort of boat sales, and I didn't show you in any detail the QuickBooks integration. I don't know if that's important to you to see, how we handle boat motor trailer sales. There's two inventory modules, one for parts, and then one for the serialized boats, which is where the red and blue key is here on the left. And all the serialized product goes in here. So serial number, description, and all these fields that are available. You can add custom fields if you want to, and add additional fields if there are not enough fields. And the boats themselves, if you have stocked units in the system, like here's a sun tracker, for example, that I have available for sale. So this is one that I stock, so there's a picture of it. I could have multiple pictures if I wanted to, and I could also have a URL link to my website, or maybe to a spec page on the boat manufacturer's site, so I could click on that URL item there and actually take me right to that boat. I've set my sell price at 26 grand. My cost price is set at 23.5, so not much of a margin there. But this boat, as you can see, is available for sale. It says it's a stocked unit, and there's no customer's name associated with it here. The system is designed for you to be able to take these items to an invoice, right mouse click new, pop the boat on there to sell it, and we sell it by serial number, of course. And then from there, you can add motors separately. You can add a trailer separately. You can take in a trade-in boat motor trailer. You can add fees if you want to. You can do a variety of different things on one ticket. You can sell them additional accessories if you want to. There's Michael Buck. Let's sell it to him. Well, let's sell it to someone that has an address on with him too. I don't know. This guy's
have the ability to block out certain information from a user's login.
Yes, absolutely.
You see all the data that's available on a boat, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. Every user gets a login, and you can set password permissions to restrict that user from accessing certain modules or seeing the cost or editing or viewing, or, there's all kinds of options there as far as security goes. So in this particular case,
like we don't want them to see the sales totals for the day when they log in.
Oh, absolutely. You can restrict them from all the reports. Yeah, you can keep them completely out of all the reports if you want to. So that's definitely an option.
Okay.
So, this is the method we're using to sell the boat. Now, if all you guys want to do is sell the boat, you cashier it, you go to the checkout window, you print the invoice, and you sell the boat, and it takes care of updating it, records the customer's name, creates all the back-end reporting data for you. If you want to go to the next level, there's a sales calculator at the top, and the sales calculator will actually do the financial calculations of this deal based on everything that you put into the screen. If there's fees involved, or if there's setup and prep, or a trade-in, or a down payment, or an OEM rebate, or whatever, all that has been taken into consideration. And the sales calculator launches something that calculates the customer's payments based on the interest rates and the loan terms and the APR that you're giving him. So let's say this was 5.99% over 36 months. It's an $800 payment. 48 months would give us, $670. 60 months would give us $551. So maybe we're doing a roll and compare, and the customer is basically looking for a payment that's under $500. We could put in the desired payment here of, let's say, $450. Do a rollback, and it's letting me know that he's got to give me $52.40 down to get that $450 payment. So this is a financial calculation piece, and it also exports out to populate all of your buyer's order and all of your DMV forms. So if you want us to do a forms pack for you, that is available, where you export the deal out and it'll send this deal out, and we can populate forms. So we can do all of your title and registration and DMV forms, a buyer's order, all those things are available. It's an additional module because it's a lot of work to set up all the forms. But if you want to, that is available. So just be aware of that. I don't know if you guys are you guys thinking in terms of sales forms or not?
The sales forms is a separate module?
Yeah, we can do a regular invoice in Commander and not have to worry about it. But if we extend the module to what I'm going to show you here, this is where we take all the PDFs and the DMV forms and the buyer's order, and we create a custom menu so that the sales guys can, they want a buyer's order, for example. And let's say that wasn't the customer, so we want to start a new deal here. We reset our forms pack, and it's going to flush out. Instead of having to type all the information in on all our forms, it does it electronically and it populates them. So there I just cleared the forms, and I could bring that deal in if that was something I wanted to do. So I would go ahead and say, well, okay, let's grab that next deal. And we go ahead and we pull the data in. So there's Jose Duran, and you can see the pontoon boat and so forth. So you can see the data's kind of all porting in there for us automatically. So, that's something that is available if you guys want us to do the forms pack for you, but we would do the DMV forms. This happens to be Michigan. Power of attorney. Notice it's all navigatable. This guy had a retail contract that he wanted done. We have to drop these fields onto the forms, and we have to make them populate. So each one is custom, and it's quite a bit of work. So there you can see the field names on all these little boxes, right? So that's how we get the data into the form, but you don't see that when you're using it. You just see it like that. So it's a bit of a time saver if you do any sort of volume boat deal. I think we charge $975 to do the forms pack, and I think it's like $75 a month or whatever for the actual form support and support of the module. But if you just want to sell the deal and you don't need to do that, you just want to have the boat deal on an invoice, go to the checkout window. It's $28,000. You get maybe you get a check from the finance company, you pay it, and you invoice it. Now you're invoicing it inside of Commander. There's no additional module for this. You can sell it right through the system, sell the boat, sell the motor, sell the trailers. We just sold that boat to Jose Duran. So if we go back and take a look at that boat record now in the boat screen, we're going to see it's been updated. So we'll go back into the boat screen here, take this unit, we'll look it up because it's static until we look it up again. And you're going to see now that it says it's a sold unit. Notice here, it used to say it was stocked. Now it says it's sold. Collected Jose Duran's name right here because we invoiced it. And so it's recorded the fact that we sold that boat to that customer. It records the date that we sold it. I can run reports on that if I wanted to see how many boats I sold, unit transactions, that would be sold boats, run a report for just today, I guess, and we'll see what we sold today. And there we're going to see that boat that we just sold. We can see our cost of $23,500, sold it at $26,295, made a $2,700 profit, 10.63% GP. So all of that's available without you having to worry about an additional module. If Jose Duran walks into my service department a minute later, right mouse click, new ticket for service. Do a quick search for Mr. Duran. There's Jose. Start a service ticket, look to see what boat he owns. There's that Sun Tracker. We sold him and select it. So it's all being updated in real time. I guess that's the point of that. And there's a lot of systems that still make the service department enter the boat the first time they come in, So ours is all just updated and all associated in the database. So that's really nice. All right, guys, that's it for me.